Right now, someone is living rent-free inside your head. And the terrifying part? You invited them in. But what if I told you that every emotion they trigger dies in exactly 90 seconds? Unless you are the one keeping it alive. Here's what neuroscience discovered that will change everything. When someone ruins your day, when they say that one thing that makes your blood boil, your body floods with stress chemicals, cortisol, adrenaline, the full cocktail. But here's the part that sounds impossible. Those chemicals naturally flush from your system in 90 seconds. 90 seconds. So why are you still angry 3 hours later? Why are you rehearsing that comeback in the shower? Why does that comment from last Tuesday still sting? Because you're doing something most people don't even realize they're doing. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. Stop the video right here. Think about the last person who genuinely upset you. Got 'em? Good. Because by the end of this, you'll see them completely differently, and they'll never have that power over you again. Picture this. You're making toast. The smoke alarm screams. Normal response? Open a window. Turn on the fan. Let it clear. But imagine instead, you keep making toast again and again and again, feeding the very thing triggering the alarm. Sounds insane, right? That's exactly what you do with anger. That driver who cut you off this morning, your body reacted. Chemicals released, heart rate spiked. That's the 90 seconds. But then the story began. What an idiot. Probably on their phone. People like that shouldn't have licenses. Now I'm going to be late and it's their fault. And 20 minutes later, you're still fuming. Not because of what happened, but because of the story you keep retelling. The toast you keep burning. Here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. Anger is a choice. Not the initial surge, that's biology. But everything after those 90 seconds, that's you choosing to stay in it. But why would anyone choose anger? That question leads us somewhere most people never look. They really know how to push my buttons. You've said it, I've said it. But here's the question nobody asks. Who installed the buttons? Because here's what's actually happening. When someone pushes your buttons, they're not controlling you. They're revealing something you haven't healed yet. Think about it. That coworker who makes sarcastic comments, why does it land so hard? Maybe because your father spoke to you that way. Maybe because you were bullied in school. Maybe because underneath the professional exterior, there's a wound that never closed. The coworker isn't pushing buttons. They're showing you where the buttons are. And once you see this, everything changes. Because you realize the person who hurt you isn't the problem. The unhealed part of you is the map. Your biggest trigger person? They're your greatest teacher. They're showing you exactly where you still give your power away. But there's something hiding underneath that anger. Something you'd never expect. Before we continue, ask yourself this. When was the last time you got angry and it actually solved the problem? I'll wait. Exactly. So why do we keep choosing it? The answer is about to blow your mind. What you call anger isn't anger. Let me explain. Anger is a bodyguard, a security detail for your most vulnerable feelings. When someone criticizes you, you don't get angry because you're bad at controlling yourself. You get angry because underneath, you're hurt that they don't see your value. But hurt feels dangerous, exposed, weak. So anger volunteers to stand in front. Anger feels powerful, safe, controlled. But it's a costume, a mask, a shield. Your spouse forgets your anniversary. Surface emotion? Fury. You never remember anything. But underneath, if you're brave enough to look, there's something quieter. Do I not matter to you? See the difference? One creates distance, the other creates connection. When you learn to identify the real emotion hiding behind anger, when you can say, I felt forgotten, instead of, you never care, that's when relationships transform. That's when you stop pushing people away while desperately wanting them closer. But here's the part that gives people actual chills. Between every trigger and every reaction, there's a space, a microsecond that most people don't even know exists. And in that space, everything changes. Viktor Frankl was in Auschwitz, surrounded by unimaginable horror, stripped of everything, family, freedom, dignity. And in that darkness, he discovered something that would change psychology forever. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is your power to choose your response. In that response lies your growth and your freedom. Think about that. In the worst conditions humanity has ever created, this man found the one thing no one could take from him: the choice of how to respond. Now bring it to your life. Someone sends you a passive-aggressive email. Your finger hovers over reply. That microsecond before you hit send, that's your choice point. That's the space where you decide, do I react from ego or respond from wisdom? Most people don't even know this space exists. They go straight from trigger to reaction in 0.3 seconds. But the people who never seem to get rattled, they've learned to live in that space, to expand it, to find it even in chaos. And once you find it, you realize something profound. You're not a victim of your emotions, you're the operator. But finding that space isn't enough. You need to know what to do when you're inside it. That's where the observer comes in. Pause right now. Close your eyes for 3 seconds. Notice you're aware that you're watching this video. There's a you that's observing you. That part, that observer, that's your superpower. And most people never discover it. Imagine standing on a mountain, watching a storm roll through the valley below. You see the lightning, hear the thunder, feel the wind, but you're not in the storm. You're watching it. That's what the observer self does with emotions. Instead of, I am angry, you think, I notice anger arising. Sounds like semantics? It's the difference between drowning and swimming. Your teenager rolls their eyes at you. Normal reaction, instant defensiveness, sharp words, escalation. Observer reaction, I notice irritation rising, heart rate increasing, jaw clenching. Interesting. When you're the observer, emotions become weather patterns. They arrive, they peak, they pass. But you, the observer, remain unchanged, like the mountain watching the storm. This is emotional immunity. You can experience any feeling without being hijacked by it. But here's where it gets radical. What if difficult people aren't obstacles at all? What if there's something else entirely? Your micromanaging boss sends his 15th email today. Your critical mother-in-law makes another helpful comment. Your passive-aggressive neighbor leaves another note. Normal perspective, why do I attract these people? New perspective, what muscle are they helping me build? Think about a personal trainer at the gym. They don't put you through uncomfortable exercises because they hate you. They do it because discomfort creates strength. Your difficult people? They're emotional trainers. That controlling boss? Training your patience muscle. That boundary-violating relative? Teaching you assertiveness. That friend who always plays victim? Developing your compassion limits. When you see it this way, suddenly you're not the victim of difficult people. You're a student in the best gym for emotional strength. Every irritating air action becomes a rep. Every trigger becomes resistance training. And just like physical training, the more reps you do, the stronger you become. Until one day, The weight that used to crush you feels light. The person who used to ruin your week barely registers. Not because they changed, because you leveled up. But strength without boundaries is just exhaustion. And that's what most people get wrong. Think about the strongest person you know, not physically, emotionally. Notice they're not pushovers. They're not people pleasers. They have something most people lack: boundaries that bend without breaking. Here's how they do it. Boundaries aren't walls. Walls keep everyone out. Boundaries let good things in and keep harmful things out. Think of your skin. It's not a concrete barrier. It's a semi-permeable membrane. Nutrients come in. Bacteria stay out. That's what healthy emotional boundaries do. Your friend calls to vent. Again. For the third time today. Old response? Absorb everything. Feel drained. Resent them later. Boundary response. I care about you deeply. I can listen for 10 minutes right now, or we can schedule an hour tomorrow when I can be fully present. Which would help you more? You're not abandoning them. You're protecting your capacity to actually be there for them. Here's the line that changes everything. I understand you're frustrated, but I don't respond well to yelling. Can we talk when you're calmer? Not aggressive, not passive, assertive. You're teaching people how to treat you. Not through lectures, through consistent boundaries. And here's what nobody tells you. Boundaries feel selfish at first, until you realize that burned-out helpers help no one. You can't pour from an empty cup, but sometimes you need to walk away entirely. And knowing when to walk away, that's the art. There's a difference between running away and creating space. One is fear, the other is wisdom. Your spouse brings up a heavy topic right when you walk in from work. You're already depleted. One wrong word and this becomes a fight. Old pattern? Force the conversation. Say things you'll regret. Damage that takes weeks to repair. New pattern, the timeout protocol. This conversation matters to me, but I'm not in the right headspace to give it the attention it deserves. Can we talk after dinner? You're not avoiding, you're honoring both the topic and your capacity. 5 minutes of space can save 5 hours of cleanup conversations. Because here's the neurological reality. When you're triggered, your prefrontal cortex, the rational, wise part of your brain, goes offline. Blood flow redirects to your amygdala. You're literally not capable of your best thinking. A timeout lets your nervous system reset, lets wisdom come back online. It's not weakness. It's the most mature thing you can do. But timeouts only work if you know your patterns, if you can see the landmines before you step on them. You wouldn't walk through a minefield blindfolded. So why navigate relationships without knowing your emotional landmines? Here's the exercise that changes everything. For 1 week, keep a simple trigger journal. When something sets you off, write down who was involved, what specifically happened, and what it reminded you of. By day 7, you'll see patterns you never noticed. I always get triggered by authority figures who are impatient, just like my father. Sarcasm always sets me off because my sibling used it to hurt me. Once you see the pattern, you see the trap. And once you see the trap, you can step around it. Knowledge is power. Not positive thinking put a smile on power, real power. The power to see what's actually happening. That critical coworker's tone reminds you of your ex who made you feel small. No wonder you're defensive. But now you know, and knowing changes everything. Because now when it happens, you can think,
this is my ex wound being activated, not actually about this coworker. That awareness creates space, and in that space, you're free. But here's the final piece most people miss. You're not experiencing reality. You're experiencing your story about reality. Let that sink in. Your boss sends a curt email. Story number 1, they hate my work, I'm getting fired, I'm a failure. Result? Anxiety, defensiveness, spiral. Story number 2, they're busy and giving quick feedback to help me improve. Result? Curiosity, gratitude, growth. Same email, different story, completely different emotional experience. The story you tell yourself determines how you feel, not what happened, the meaning you assigned it to it. Your friend doesn't text back for 3 hours. Story number 1, they're mad at me, I did something wrong, they're pulling away. Story number 2, they're busy. I'll hear from them when they're free. Which story creates peace? Which story creates suffering? You get to choose, every single time. This is the ultimate freedom. When you realize you're not a victim of circumstances, you're a victim of your interpretations. And interpretations can be rewritten, but rewriting them takes practice. Which brings us to the part everyone skips. Here's what separates the people who watch this video and forget it in 3 days from the people who completely transform their emotional lives. Practice. Not someday, not when the perfect moment arrives, starting today. Here's your protocol. Week 1, the 90-second rule. Every time you get triggered, set a 90-second timer. Just notice. Don't act, don't respond. Watch the chemicals flood, then watch them fade. You'll be shocked how fast emotions pass when you stop feeding them. Week 2, find your choice point. Before you react to anything, pause. Take one breath. In that breath, ask, what response would I be proud of tomorrow? That question activates wisdom. Week 3, activate your observer. When emotion hits, say out loud, I notice emotion arising. That's it. That simple phrase creates distance. Distance creates choice. Week 4, reframe one difficult person. Pick your biggest trigger person. Ask, what strength is this person helping me develop? Watch how the relationship transforms when you change the frame. Small, consistent changes create massive transformation. You're not trying to be perfect. You're trying to be 1% more conscious than yesterday. And 1% compounded daily? That's revolution. Close your eyes and imagine. 6 months from now, someone says the thing that used to ruin your entire week. But this time, you feel the surge. You notice it. You breathe through it. And then, it passes. You respond with clarity, with wisdom, with calm. Not because you're pretending, because you're free. Free from the prison of reactivity. Free from giving your power to people who don't deserve it. Free to feel everything without being controlled by anything. That person, they're real. They're not some fantasy version of you. They're who you become when you practice these principles until they become automatic. Everyone you admire who seems unshakable, they're not born different. They just learned what you now know. The only question left is, will you practice? Or will this just be another interesting video you watched and forgot? Because transformation isn't found in information. It's found in application. The difficult people in your life aren't going anywhere, but your relationship to them, that can change today. starting with the next 90 seconds. Before you click away, ask yourself one question. Who would I be if difficult people no longer had power over my peace? That person is possible. That person is waiting. That person starts now. Not someday, now. If this resonated with you, if something shifted, tap that like button, not for me, for the algorithm to show this to someone who desperately needs it today. Drop a comment with the one technique you're committing to practice this week, and subscribe if you want more content that doesn't just inform you, but transforms you. The next video is already waiting, and it's going to take this even deeper. See you there?